Hello. Uh, Thank you to Tanzan from Software Advisory Service for asking these questions. So my name is Bill Buchanan. I'm a professor of cryptography at Edinburgh and Napier University. So how did I get started in this industry? Well, my father and my grandfather were both electricians, so it seemed a natural progression for me to follow that line. And then it was while I was working in a chemical factory as an electrician, an apprentice electrician in Grangemouth, that I came across two magical things that changed my world: the transistor and the integrated circuit. And I could see that the future was going to be based on these magical little devices. The transistor with a little plastic blob with three legs just seemed so amazing that it seemed to be taking over the world, and especially how things were moving from an analog world into a digital world. And the factory itself was run by a magical thing called a computer. And I always remember running cables to the control centre and then seeing these people with white coats and with things like teleprinters and so on. It just seemed amazing, amazing new future that was being created. And then when the CPU, the processor came along, I could really see the future of these devices, and I was basically hooked. And I always remember going and seeing my bank manager and asking for a loan for a Commodore PET. And he asked me, "Why do you want one of these things?" And I just said, "I want it because I can see these things are the future, and I need to learn everything about them." I didn't get the loan, and because he thought that I was buying a new toy to play with, and he couldn't see why I would need to learn on something like that had virtually no place in his world at that time. And I've continued to learn, and I really thank this industry for allowing me the opportunity to continually learn new things and never stay still. So what are the three tech software tools that I depend on most? Well, I think our existing world is so flawed and is typically based on 20th century methods. Our legal system, especially, is so far behind in adopting a truly digital and more trusted world. And I still find it unbelievable that we still use wet signatures in any way in this modern world, and that we need to really push forward in rebuilding the internet, and which is the most amazing structure that we've ever created as a species. Our challenge is thus to rebuild our world, existing world of trust, into a digital space. And we need to understand how we can look after the rights of every single citizen. So for me, I find cryptography fascinating, and I can see beauty in the mathematical scribbles that other people would see no sense in. And so I've saturated my knowledge in data comms and networks, and I now teach and research in an area that I find gives me an almost endless track for learning. I also like solving puzzles and coding, so the area of cryptography suits me perfectly. So my three favourite things are typically built around building things for this more trusted world. The one application I could not do without is Microsoft Visual Studio. So just as an artist needs a pen and a paper, our art needs ways to build and create software. So Visual Studio is the one application that I could not do without. I love building things from scratch and with no idea where they will actually end up. But the seed of an idea can lead to amazing things or can lead to nothing. And on my site, isecuritysite.com, that's my scratch pad. That's me learning. I doodle with things and I build things and I code and I like to make things simple and show people how complex things are actually created. And I would say one of the greatest step forwards for me was when Microsoft released the Mac OS version and I was released from the shackles of Microsoft Windows. My second one is three things, and they're open source collaboration tools: GitHub, Overleaf and Slack. I think that GitHub is really creating the future, is building the future there, and I now use it for teaching and research, and it's an amazing place to really build your code, version it and share it. I love open source tools and their ability to share and to take away from tools like Microsoft Office, which are generally very poor at doing that. So for writing and for reports and dissertations and papers and so on, we use Overleaf with its LaTeX infrastructure, and that really breaks us away from Microsoft Office, and it's an ability to share properly. So we now collaborate and produce research papers which will stand up in the community and to be able to provide a vehicle for the dissemination of our work. And then when it comes to email, it's becoming unsustainable to be able to use it as a communication tool. I receive thousands of emails every week, and I find it almost unsustainable to manage the load. So we use Slack now, and so we can better manage our conversations and sustain them along with sparking new ideas. So to me, GitHub, Overleaf, Slack help my teaching so much to deliver it in an effective way, and it also gives a supportive environment for every single student. And my last one is again three things: Python, Golang and Node.js. Like it or not, these are amazing new programming languages that are really well matched to this open source world. I grew up with C and C++, and I know of all the difficulties that there are in running running code in a range of environments, especially with x86 and x68 and Intel and segmented architectures and things like that. So Python does things so well, and it just makes it so much easier to build for a more open world. And my advice to any computer science student is really to go ahead and learn one of those languages and to build real things. So what's my favourite book or podcast? Well, 1984 by George Orwell sticks in my head, and he predicted a world of fake news, political interference with our thoughts, and a world of mass surveillance. And I think that may be the world that we're entering into. And maybe the quote for the future is that we will have 15 minutes of anonymity in this new world that we're creating. For technology, I would say Bruce Snyder's book *In Secrets and Lies* really changed my world, and I remember the actual point of reading the book and seeing clearly how things like public key encryption could actually change our world, and how we had to rebuild our trust in our society in a digital form. And it's inspired me for all of my teaching and research. And then to stand on the same stage as Bruce in my home city, in my university, will definitely be one of the highlights of my career. And I would say that the words of dearly departed and dearly missed Tim May of the Cyberpunks has provided a guiding light in some of the things that he said. And to quote him, he said, "Just as the printing altered and reduced the power of medieval guilds and their social power structure, so will cryptologic methods fundamentally alter the nature of corporations and of government interference in economic transactions. I think you should really look at that quite deeply and what was said there. I'm a strong believer in working together across the physical barriers and virtual barriers that exist, which separate us across the world. And I think Tim's words really resonate with me in how governments of the world often try to restrict the movements of their citizens and how they can take away their basic rights to freedom and privacy. I'd hope in the future that our kids will not see physical borders that are placed from ancient times as any barrier to be able to collaborate with anyone in the world. Hopefully, our planet will become a much smaller space. And what's the most important thing that I've learned in my career? Many things, and the main thing is that never to stop learning and to pass knowledge on to others. You should always be kind, considerate and respectful of everyone and to listen to their ideas. And basically, we should support David over Goliath. There are many large and faceless companies who are taking over our digital world increasingly and seeing us as their customers and harvesting our data. So as long as there are little upstart companies which can disrupt that world, then that's a good thing. And also that we should create new things and nurture them, but also to know when it's best to stand aside and let others take on and lead them forward. And what advice would I give to my younger self? I'd basically have a dream and a vision and stick to it. Learn along the way, but really have a guiding light. Others will disagree with you, but stick with it and learn along the way. Only time really will tell if you were right and they were wrong. And there's lots of people in this world that will say no, and you can't do that. But trust those who support you on the way and let things happen, and who are there to help and support you when things get difficult. Who inspires me? Well, lots of people. I love to see people evolve, grow and achieve their full potential. That's what universities are all about, achieving full potential. And I especially love to see when people build things that would never have existed without them. And I suppose that is our basic measure. Without you, then this thing would not be what it is just now. We all stand on the shoulders of giants, and we all do our little bit to help things along the way. Jamie Graves, without a doubt, who led Zone Fox in Edinburgh, is definitely a role model for every budding technology entrepreneur. He took the seed of an idea and built a strong company in my home city. And to build something from zero is something that we should always support. And it's these seeds of the future which will provide our economic success. And without that economic success, we do not bring all the other great things that we require to keep our world moving, our education, health, and so on. A healthy economy equals healthy citizens. And everyone along the way who helped us with our spin-outs has inspired us in some way. And generally those who could not see the potential of what we were trying to do actually helped to inspire us a little bit more to be successful. So sometimes negative comments can actually be good, and failure can actually be a thing where you can grow from. A guiding light has always been Bruce Snyer, and to me it shows that people matter in this industry much more than faceless companies like Google and Facebook. And with him we see the core leaders, people, rather than institutions or departments or companies building magical new things. Ron Rivest, Audie Shamir and Whitfield Diffie were crazy people who changed the way that we looked at things and were building the future. And there's lots of people in my own university, such as our Dean, Professor Sally Smith, who support and who are so positive and thankful to staff. Every organisation needs to know where it is now, but also needs to be growing the seeds of success for the future, and people like Sally do that perfectly well. And finally, it's not really just people that inspire me. My city inspires me so much in virtually everything that I do. Its beauty, its culture, its people, its concentration on education is an inspiration for me. And also to live in the most beautiful country on the planet helps too. And I must say that my own university has great values and provides a place for everyone to achieve their full potential. And it's a university that has never stood in the way of anything that we have done and has always been so supportive. And finally, to see our confident graduates changing the world is something that I will never tire of. So thank you for asking those 6 questions, and I can only say it's my viewpoint on the world, and everyone else has their own viewpoint, and everyone's viewpoint matters. Thank you.